The more casual and the more agnostic fans, what they would tell you was that this past weekend, oh, it would have been a good weekend to go do something else, maybe work on some yard work, maybe like go and do like a fall activity with a significant other or a family. But what you didn't realize is even though there wasn't as many marquee games as what you would normally see, we did end up with a consequentially insane college football slate here in week number 2, which created some movement in terms of teams that are still going to be alive in the CFP Eliminator. And we saw some action here as we ended up seeing 13 teams eliminated from week number 2. So that does bring our number down. I think we were at 124 to begin week number 2. We're now officially down to 111. So that's how you realize you have quite a bit going on when you do have all of those eliminations happening at once. But let's not wait too much longer. Let's go ahead and dive into what does the new CFP Eliminator tier maker, what does that look like as we're getting ready to enter week number 3. But before I show this off to you guys, I need you guys to do me a couple of favors real fast because there is a lot of you guys right now, and I won't show the metrics here on YouTube. I won't do that. I'm not that type of guy. But what I do know, there's a lot of you guys that are watching these videos, but you're not subscribed. And all I'm asking is, what are we doing? What are we actually doing right now? Make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoy the content as well, make sure you hit that like button too. That does help push this video out to more die-hard college football fans as well. But hey, let's go ahead and jump into it. A lot of action happening. So here is the tier maker that we do have going in to week number 3. And let's go ahead and work our way from the bottom and then start to work our way up slowly but surely. So several teams eliminated over the course of last week. So let's go ahead and talk about it real fast. So Liberty, I don't think it's much of a surprise here. They did end up losing to Jacksonville State. Liberty does come in as at least in our preseason metrics, we had them as the worst strength of schedule in major college football. That is what I've referred to the entirety of the FBS. So Liberty needed to go undefeated to have a shot of making the college football playoff. That did not happen with the loss to Jacksonville State, which means that Liberty, they're going to be out. Oregon State, they're now 0-2. They got blown out by Cal back in week 1, and then they also had a tough loss against Fresno State as well, so they're done. UTSA, the Roadrunners, lose the I-35 rivalry game to Texas State, so UTSA is out. UAB lost to Navy. It was a little bit more competitive than expected, but still a multi-possession loss for the Blazers, which will eliminate them. Western Michigan did go to overtime against North Texas, but the Broncos, combined with a loss to Michigan State as well, they're going to be eliminated. Miami, they don't even have any G5 losses yet, but what happened to Miami is they've had 2 consecutive games against power conference teams that were really non-competitive. First and foremost, the Wisconsin game where they lost by 3 scores, and then the Rutgers games turned out to be even worse. I believe that was a 28-point loss to Rutgers. So Miami, that's why they're out. Marshall lost to Missouri State. That was actually an upset as well. Western Kentucky, this was one of the more fascinating games that we had in week number 2. But Toledo did not make this a game. Toledo blew them out, so they're done. Georgia State was blown out by Memphis. South Alabama loses a close one to Tulane. Ball State, also another program that did not have any G5 losses, but they were blown out by Auburn. They were also blown out by Purdue, so that's how they find themselves down here. And then your last 2 teams in Tulsa and San Diego State. We did see Tulsa lose late to New Mexico State as the Aggies started the year 2-0 for the first time since 2014. And then San Diego State loses convincingly to Washington State. So that's how we have things shake out in terms of why each of those teams are eliminated in week number 2. We did also create a brand new tier as well, and this is the win out plus get help. So these are teams that are essentially going to need to win out moving forward, as well as maybe get a little bit of help from around the country in order to work their way into the playoff, right? So getting things started here. So we have 3 teams making up this tier. Kennesaw State is in here. They had the 1 point loss to Wake Forest. I don't think that's going to really be that big of a deal in hindsight. I know Wake Forest is the best power conference team, but I mean, Kennesaw State did schedule up, or at least tried to, and they were competitive the first time around. The problem is that they just got blown out by Indiana, so they need to win out moving forward, and then maybe get the rest of the help, some help from the rest of the G5. And then you have a couple of power conference teams in this tier as well. We see this with Stanford. They already had the loss of Hawaii, and then they were blown out by BYU as well. So Stanford, for all intents and purposes, their at-large hopes are done and over with. And I'm thinking they're going to need to win out in order to make the playoff. And then the same thing for Kansas State. Really, one of the biggest disappointments that we've seen thus far this season as Kansas State. Listen, man, that was a team that I thought was going to be a Big 12 title contender, and they just been a major disappointment between losing to Iowa State. That's fine. That's a neutral site game. That's a conference game. And Iowa State right now, according to Redshirt Sports, in the top 25, right? But then what happened the next 2 weeks has been bonkers, right? They barely scraped by against FCS North Dakota, and then they just lost to Army, who they themselves, they're already on this list as an eliminated team because they lost to an FCS program too. So very disappointing year for Kansas State. They're going to need to win out just to have a shot to make it. They could theoretically still win the Big 12, but again, you're really looking at, they need some help. They need some major help. So that's what that tier is made up of. And then we have some new teams, obviously, in the must-win out period. So several teams joining this particular list. So let's go ahead and take a look at what that list includes. So we have James Madison losing a 2-score game to Louisville. NIU jumped on here as well. They lost to Maryland. FIU played Penn State tough in the first half, and then the Nittany Lions pulled away. So FIU is on here as well. La Tech, 2-score loss to LSU. They're on the list. Troy with a multi-score loss. Utah State the same with Texas A&M. ULM, a 73-point loss. I don't think you should be eliminated outright from playoffs if you're playing against a power conference team and that's your only loss so far. So that's how ULM is still here. And that's the same with Kent State. They were blown out by Texas Tech. Central Michigan, we did see them lose to, I believe they were playing against, it's not Wisconsin. They lost to Pitt. Bowling Green did cover against Cincinnati, but it is their first loss of the year. Arkansas State got blown out by Arkansas, first time that those two programs played. And then Rice, Houston did not play with Food. So those are teams that are not out by any means, but they're going to need a win out, period, in order to get in. And then last but not least, we have some new teams added into the at-large tier. And these are still teams that are still trying to, that they can still make the, if they win out, they would still at least be in that conversation to get an at-large spot, right? So Ohio and East Carolina, plus Jacksonville State, those are the 3 teams that were in Toledo too. Those 4 teams were in here prior. But then you do have like UConn joining the list. UConn really just fell apart last second. Very tough scene for UConn Huskies. Should have won that game against Syracuse, but they pissed down their leg, and so they ended up losing in overtime to Syracuse. West Virginia, they did go on the road to play against Ohio, who is in this tier as well, but West Virginia could not pull it out. Struggled offensively, which I thought was really surprising and really interesting. I figured it would be more of a shootout if Ohio was to win, so that does show that the Bobcats can win in multiple ways, which I think is really encouraging. And then UCLA, it's been a rough first couple of games for Nico and the boys. Did see them get blown out against Utah, and then you also see them have a tough loss to UNLV as well. So they're now at a point where if they want at-large consideration, they're going to need to win their next 10 games. So a tall task here. So 113 teams remaining. If your team is not on this tier maker, that does mean that your team is completely safe for the time being. So, and I didn't want to show all 113 of all the other teams that were completely safe right now, because then it would be a little bit too convoluted of a list, and just want to really get to the good stuff, right? So that's what we have going on in terms of updates to the CFP Eliminator. We do have 9 games happening this week, which are going to be considered elimination games. One of them actually does feature a power conference team for the first time this year. UCLA is hosting New Mexico on Friday night. UCLA, they already have that 1G5 loss to UNLV. If they get a second one in New Mexico, you might as well stick a fork in them. And then for New Mexico, they already have the one loss. They have to figure out a way to win this game, or at least be competitive. If they're at least competitive, they'll probably go to the win out and get help. But I mean, for all intents purposes, this is a elimination game for between these two teams. And then the other 8, they're happening on Saturday, mostly in the non-conference. So Memphis is going to play Troy at noon. So that's going to be happening over at ESPNU. Buffalo going to take on Kent State, the Golden Flashes, also with a noon kickoff as well to get action going for both programs. Washington State, fresh off of a win against San Diego State, is going to take on North Texas at 3:30 Eastern. North Texas escaping Kalamazoo with a win. We'll see if they can play a little bit better, and I think they might, because Washington State's looking pretty good early on, so to speak. We got also a rivalry game between Florida Atlantic and FIU. Both teams in that must-win-out period tier. So a big game before both teams enter their respective conference plays as well. That's happening at 6 Eastern. App State. App State doesn't have a single power conference team, so they're once again in a CFP elimination game, this time pitting up against Southern Miss, who just got their first win under new head coach Charles Huff. New Mexico State, they're 2-0 to start the year. They're going to get Conference USA action going against Louisiana Tech, who could be a sleeper in the Conference USA. That's happening at 7:30. And then in addition, East Carolina nearly beating NC State, and then that close loss is looking better for the Pirates by the day, because NC State looked impressive offensively against Virginia. They go on the road to take on Coastal Carolina, who just had to squeak by Charleston Southern. So that game's happening at 7:30. And then the last CFP elimination game happening at 9:45. It is Air Force taking on Utah State. That is happening at 9:45 Eastern. It's a Mountain West game. Air Force, they don't have any power conference teams, so they're probably going to be featuring a lot of CFP elimination games until they get knocked out. If they get knocked out, Utah State did play against Texas A&M, a ranked Texas A&M team. Texas A&M won comfortably, but Utah State did cover. So those two teams will go at it at 9:45. But guys, that's going to wrap things up for the CFP Eliminator. Who do you think should be moving up or down, like in the tiers? Definitely let me know down in the comment section. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, man, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. There's a lot of work that goes into doing these videos, as well as previewing those games. I won't include all the previews here for the time being because there's so many games happening, but throughout the week, you can see those dropping on the channel, so make sure you definitely tune in. But with that being said, this is your host, Jake of College Football Red Zone, signing off, but hoping you guys are all out there having a good one. Good night, everybody.